Hey there, everybody. Just got done reading Lord Hornblower by C.S. Forrester. Yeah, C.S. Forrester. Um, I was looking at the book. That's what I was doing. Anyway, I was not aware that this series was a thing until I saw these books on my dad's bookshelf. And I decided to take a gamble and pick one up and read it. And I chose Lord Hornblower just out of the random. It was available to me, so I picked that book. And it turns out that one is, I think, the last book in the series, which is probably not the best place to start a series as the last one. But as I said, I was kind of curious to know about what this whole series was about and the author, get a feel for how he writes. And I was pleasantly surprised. It was a very good book. So Lord Hornblower has been in the British Navy for 20 years or so, I think. He says at one point he's been in war, been in action for about 20 years or so. So he's probably in his late 30s, early 40s, I'm guessing. If he joined when he was 17, 18 years old. But anyway, so this entails kind of the end of this guy's career. Now, he's had a great career, it sounds like. He's been very reliable for the British Navy. Sounds like he's been pretty instrumental in some past battles and is pretty creative in the way he solves his problems. And that's kind of highlighted with the first 90 pages or so when he is confronted with a ship that has mutinied against its captain. Now, certainly Hornblower is loyal to Britain and the crown, but at the same time, there's a great deal of compassion that he shows and is thinking about for the crew, the mutineers, because the captain of the ship really was a pain in the butt. He was threatening to whip the entire crew, or most of them, and flog them, which is a pretty severe penalty. And the crew was just sick of all of his antics and finally decided to take things into their own hands and take over the ship. And they pretty much locked up the captain. And Hornblower even admits it at one point in the book, I think the first section when he's thinking about this. He's like, yeah, if I was in this dude's crew, I would have mutinied too, because he is just a bad guy. But Hornblower is loyal to his country. He's loyal to, his oath. I'm assuming he took an oath when he became an officer, and he's going to uphold the duty of his country. All right. Now, I like the fact that when he's on his way, he's in a hurry and wants to get there quickly so he can end this. And at the same time, a storm blows in, so he's not able to get to where he wants to go right away. So he's a little frustrated, but at the same time, he reflects over his career and he says, we just got to sort of work with the elements. You got to take things as they come, and you just have to learn to be patient. You have to learn to be submissive to the will of Mother Earth, I guess is the way I would kind of say it. Because, when you're on a wind-powered ship, a wind-driven ship, you can't fight nature all the time. Certainly, there are skills that a ship captain uses to sort of go into the wind to steer the ship, but when there's a storm, you just kind of ride it out and hope and pray for the safety of your ship and crew. So, C.S. Forrester, in my mind, throughout this particular book, he brings out a lot of strong elements of naturalism. For example, Hornblower, he is thinking about the Roman historian, I'm going to get this wrong, Suetonius, possibly, and he quotes him and he says that, all men underneath, inside, they're a mess. There's a lot of emotional turmoil within themselves, but outwardly, they try to appear collected and calm and in charge. That they are, the master of their own universe, I guess is the way I would put it. But as I said, internally, that's not the case. And as the novel progresses, we're going to kind of see that theme play out. Is that Hornblower is projecting an image of command, an image of leadership, but inside, he's a wreck. The war is coming to an end, and part of him is reminiscing on the old days, when he was a young sailor. The world was kind of in the cusp of his hand. Everything was sort of new. And now the only thing he has to look forward to is moving back to Smallbridge and raising his son and spending time with his wife. A very quiet existence, a peaceful existence is what he wants, but at the same time, it's devoid of action. Think of when he's in Le Havre, France. I think that's the name of the city where he's the mayor, and he sends the ships up the river to intercept the cannons that are being moved into position to counterattack Hornblower and his troops. And he's wishing that he can go along. And it's then that he realizes the sacrifices that he made for his country, because he feels alone. He's in the dark in the passenger cabin by himself, and he's not sleeping. He wants the company of others. In fact, he gets up at one point to go in and visit some of his other shipmates, I guess I would call them, and they're asleep. And then he realizes, well, they probably wouldn't want me in there anyway. So he feels distance from his crew. He feels, of course, distance from his wife because she's not with him, and his kid, they're in a different place at this time, and it's really depressing him. The pathos within him is very dark, and that continues on, I think, until he reunites with Marie. Is it Marie? I know he's married to Barbara. He used to be married to, I think it's Maria, and then he's kind of had a thing with Marie, I think it is. I'm probably getting those backwards. But anyway, once he connects with her, he feels reinvigorated. He feels strong emotions towards her, and eventually, that plays out, and they have that affair, that brief affair with one another. But I think C.S. Forester did a really good job about bringing out how hard it is for active servicemen to transition back into civilian life. And it is emotional difficulty. It is traumatic to an extent to be at war. In this case, Hornblower's at war for 20 plus years. I mean, that was probably, he knew more about war than peace. So for him to eventually move back into that peacetime sort of straightforward lifestyle, it might have scared him a little bit. I think that was one of the underlying themes that can be discussed in this book. Think about, in my mind, I think about when he's just about ready to be strung up by the Frenchmen, because he was caught, and, it's a really dark time for him, but he's kind of ready to die. He kind of misses the fact that he won't be around for Barbara and his son. And then when he's finally released, one of the first things he thinks about is his wife and kid and getting back to them. So I think that's when he realizes, at least in my mind, that, it's great to have all this action and have an adventurous life, but what really matters to him is actually being with his family. So I think that was a long, kind of difficult journey for him to finally consciously realize that he does really want to be with his family. But I don't know, maybe I'm missing that whole point. But getting back to the naturalism, I'm going to wrap this up here real quick. Getting back to the naturalism theme in the book, at the very end, close to the end, where he's running away from the French troops, I think Marie is still with him, and the Count is still with him, and there's a few other people still with him. They're trying to cross this river, but they can't. They're hemmed in because the waters had risen to such a level where they can no longer cross it. Again, that's just playing on the part that there are events out of our control, and we have been directed in our life by events that we don't always know why. I think Hornblower, when he was looking at his life, he said that certainly planning played a part of his success, and having good men underneath him to carry out his orders were playing a part in his success. But he also said that that luck also played a part in his success. So he admitted consciously at that point that at any given time, a person's life does or is limited by outside factors, that it is luck, I guess you could say, that directs some of the courses and actions in our lives. Like, you can do all the planning in the world to win a battle, you can have the best troops, but there will be circumstances outside of that control that will influence the outcome. And that's in the way of business. You know, it happens with our personal lives. You know, we plan on going on a vacation, but things happen that are out of our control. So that's just a natural part of life, that these events play into its part. So I think that C.S. Forster was definitely touching on naturalism in this book. So anyway, lots of different themes in here, lots of different things to talk about. Really good writer. He's fantastic with naval scenes, you know, the fighting and so on. Very good book, and I look forward to reading more about it. Bye.